Right, so hello. So I'm Maxim Jago. I've probably met quite a few of you before at events like this. I've been asked by Adobe to give you about half of my time on cloud-based solutions and Anywhere, and half talking about Creative Cloud itself as a suite of applications. And before I kick off, how many people are using Premiere Pro to cut? Wow, tumbleweeds across the room. Okay. And who's using Media Composer? Quite a number. Okay. FCP7? Okay. FCPX? Who just needs to stretch a little bit? Okay. It's good to keep moving. Okay. I don't use PowerPoint very often, but here we go. So here is Adobe Anywhere and Adobe Creative Cloud. And I'll just start out by clearing up some confusion about the Creative Cloud from Adobe. A lot of people think that the Creative Cloud means that you're accessing your software via the internet, that somehow you don't have the software installed on your computer. That's not what the Creative Cloud is, although I have to admit it does seem that way sometimes if you look at the marketing and the literature. What it really means is that you're paying a license fee to have the use of the software rather than a perpetuity ownership of the item. And it's actually a very, very good deal. If you come and chat to me afterwards, we'll talk about the numbers, but it's actually a really good deal. You get a lot of extra stuff. But you do have the software on your computer. So you can go offline, you're just downloading it and putting in a serial number. But once it's on your computer, you're done. You're going to continue using it. And the cloud, Creative Cloud, incorporates a whole list of applications. So although there are some ways that you might access just one or two applications, what you're really going to do is just have everything. So you're going to have Premiere Pro, After Effects, Photoshop, Illustrator, Flash, Dreamweaver, Illustrator, whatever, everything. You just get everything on your machine, and you get this fantastic operation. So that's the Adobe Creative Cloud. And I'll just go through this pretty quickly because I want to give you a really cool demo at the end of Anywhere. But the gist of it is, here's the marketing talk. World's best apps, you've got collaboration and sharing. There are lots of applications that allow you to share your media. And in fact, with the Creative Cloud, you get, I think the standard user gets 20 gig off the top of my head of storage space, and the enterprise users get 100. So, and it's actually integrated into the application, so you can send stuff up to the cloud and you can browse it and access it and take a look at it. Adobe are also implementing a bit more what I would refer to as how do I support. So it's not just about having technical support when it seems to be broken. I'm using the word seems. I used to work in technical support, and I developed a whole George Clooney voice for people who thought their computers were trying to kill them. And I'd say, just tell me the problem. What's the matter? But the idea is to give you guidance on using these applications, which I think, as we're seeing this proliferation of complex technologies, one of the big challenges for people now is how do you access the skills to use those technologies? And I really think, I mean, I'm here on behalf of Adobe. I'm actually a filmmaker. I'm actually an avid ACI, I have been for 10 years. I made the Edius training program. I use a lot of different systems. But I really think Adobe are rocking it in terms of giving access to information and making things like tutorials and walkthroughs and videos available to their users. They're really embedding it in the technology. And I think that's really useful for end users who just don't have the time to take training courses. But please feel free to take training courses. I teach stuff too. But there's a lot of free stuff on the internet. And then we've got here on the end simplified software management. And the idea is that with the development of Creative Cloud, this is for enterprise, you have a kind of a management portal where you can oversee which users have got access to the software based on their login. And there's a key paradigm shift here, which I think is brilliant. Some people are, they're raging against the dying of the light. They're not sure on what this means. But what happens now with these applications is you have an Adobe ID. It's just a login and a password that you can generate for free on adobe.com. And even if you don't pay for anything, there's quite a lot of stuff you can get for free using that login. But that login is your identity with these applications. So when you access the system, you can actually take your user preferences and pull them from the cloud to whichever machine you're sitting at and push them back to the cloud when you're done. So the idea is you've got all of these machines set up with the software installed. You sit down, you log in. Your login gives you the rights to use the applications, which in the case of an enterprise install will be managed by whoever's administrating it. In the case of a single user, it's based on the number of licenses that you've bought. I think it's 2 per login. Then, based on that login, you get access to the software, but also you get access to your preferences. So it feels like your machine wherever you sit, which I think is brilliant. It's a really useful way of hot desking. And of course, if you're using network-based storage in some form, it really just feels like you're sat at your machine and there's your content. So what else have we got? In the Creative Cloud, you've got a whole, Lightroom I forgot to mention. Acrobat Pro, you get Fireworks, Audition. All of this stuff is incorporated. Muse, Adobe, has anyone heard of Adobe Muse? So if you know how to code websites, or if you're a professional web dev, then you're probably going to use Dreamweaver, which is an environment in which to develop web content. But if you don't really know how to create websites, you can use Muse, which is a kind of a soft interface for generating web content. I used it recently to mock up a website for my new feature film project. Woo, Orpheus Rising, check it out, it's amazing. I had a web dev and I had a web designer, but I needed a way to communicate to them what I intended. So I just made the website. Rather than mocking it up in something like Photoshop, I just made it in Adobe Muse, which is a software design, it's a design interface, put that website online and said to the designers, here it is. So you can use Muse for that. So there's a lot of high-end applications incorporated. We've also got this sync, store, and share aspect of the Creative Cloud. And again, here's the news. From now on, you can only get these applications as a Creative Cloud license. You can't buy a box anymore. There is no box product. And again, a lot of people are looking at this and they're kind of freaking out a little bit because they're used to paying money and getting a product and having that product. It's a license now. People were talking about this 20, 25 years ago. Microsoft, I think, were the first company to come out and say, hey, by the way, software as service is the future. And there's one fundamental reason why this has to happen. I don't know if I've got a slide on this, but here's what it comes down to. In the US in particular, it's illegal for companies like Adobe to add features to a product that you've already paid for. It's a money laundering legislation. They just can't do it, which means that if they release a product and then there's something they want to add to it, like another button or just a little feature they want to add on, another codec maybe they want to support, it's illegal to do it until a year later. And the technology is just moving too fast for that now. With the Creative Cloud, even if you sign up for a 12-month subscription, you're actually getting a monthly payment. And that monthly payment means it's legal for Adobe to give you new features every month. We're already seeing it for people that are subscribing to the CS6 Creative Cloud. But this is just going to, I think it's going to explode with the CC release of these applications, which I think is due on the 17th of June. So you're going to be able to just update. And many of these updates are going to include, oh, by the way, we added this menu item. By the way, some people were saying that they liked the way this worked, but they'd like it to work like that. Now we've changed it. And they're allowed to do that because you're paying monthly, which is really cool. They also give you a whole bunch of extra stuff and cloud storage and that kind of thing, and commenting and sharing. But this ability to add features is really, really important. By the way, I don't know if all of you will have heard of this, but Adobe have a thing called a JDI list. It's the Just Do It list. And their JDI list is for their development teams. For all of the applications, they're not discussing it anymore. They're just going to add that feature. We're not talking about whether it's worth it. It's in the line. We're going to make it happen. And Adobe really are famous for listening to their users. So they have a feature request website, and every time you request a feature, it's almost certain someone's thought of it before, but it just does a +1 for the feature request, and it bumps it up the list. And once it gets high up enough on the list, they just do it. They add the feature. And now that we're using effectively a monthly subscription model for our applications, that feature that you request could just pop up 6 months into your ownership. So we've got publishing. I'm a video guy, I'm a filmmaker, but we've got publishing and we've got support for things like Business Catalyst, which allows you to monitor the numbers and monetize your content. We've got Typekit, which is brilliant, allows you to put pretty much any font into a website, because traditionally you just can't do that. This builds into your website the option to download to the end user's machine, whichever font you've used. It's very nice. And as I mentioned, we've got training and support. I don't know if all of you will have seen it if you're not in Adobe land, but Adobe TV has a ton of free tutorials. A lot of them are by people like me. You can go onto Amazon, you can go, come and find me for a Lynda card. I can give you a week's free access to lynda.com. You get paid tutorials, which I like to think are very good quality, and they include the assets. But Adobe TV includes massive amounts of content completely for free, many of it taken from things like lynda.com. And the help for these applications is managed by Adobe in such a way that a lot of those free tutorials are embedded inside the help, so it's easy to access. Okay, so, and there you are for individuals. This is the lonely editor. It's a guy though. They should have, we need more women editors, more women filmmakers. Again, best tools, you can sync and share. It's the same kind of idea. Teams, they get virtual work groups, it's centralized administration and billing, and enterprise users get this whole deployment thing. It's too much PowerPoint. So now Adobe Anywhere is the new technology that I really want to demo, because I've got it set up and working here on our network. In fact, I'm accessing it via Wi-Fi. And Adobe Anywhere, I think, is one of the most significant technologies I've seen since starting out as a filmmaker a gazillion years ago. Maybe a gazillion and one. The issue is, and I think the previous presentation pointed this out really nicely, so I'm not going to revisit the reasons for it, but we are all moving in this direction of always on, always connected access, both to each other and to our content. I have a friend who reckons that the fact that we can call each other at any time, anywhere, is training us to be telepathic. I hope that's true. I think that'd be awesome. That'd be really, really good. When you really want a cup of tea, but you're hoping someone will make it for you. I'm hoping that's going to come. The point about collaborating via the cloud, and this term of the cloud actually, of course, means a number of different things, as John was saying. But the point is that if you're accessing things on the cloud or via a network, what you do not want to do is feel like there's this lag or this delay. Now, I don't work for Adobe, but I do meet the developers and the engineers from time to time. And one of the things I'm always saying to them is every millisecond of lag, in fact, you mentioned this earlier, every millisecond of lag from the time I press the button to the time something happens is a millisecond I just can't have, because I have difficulty enough integrating with reality, let alone interacting with virtual items that don't respond immediately. I'm a primate, I'm a monkey. When I pick something up, I want to feel like I'm picking it up right now. I don't want to feel like there's this delayed experience. And it really makes a difference as a cutter. If you've cut across a network, if any of you have used Interplay, for example, which is brilliant, you do sometimes get this laggy response time from your media if you're working with a media storage system that isn't super, super fast. And it interferes with the creative process. So what Adobe have done with Anywhere is they've created a system where it feels like you're cutting locally. Now, we've just seen a solution where we're extending the display and the keyboard and the mouse. I was pretty impressed by that. I thought that was really good. What I'm about to show you with Adobe Anywhere is the same idea in a sense, in that I've got a machine downstairs that has all of my media on it. It has an Anywhere server running on it, and it's managing that media, and it's allowing me to access it. It's a slightly different approach, though, that gives you more, if you like, more options than just extending a single machine. I can have multiple clients, for example, connected to the same machine, accessing the same content and collaborating on it at the same time. So it's a collaborative tool, but the experience feels like I've got all my media locally, and that's the important thing. It feels local, but it's not. What I've got on this machine in front of me is the Premiere Pro interface. It's actually, I'm going to show you the new unreleased Premiere Pro Creative Cloud version that's due to be released on the 17th of June, I think. No, it is the 17th of June, isn't it? Yeah, it's been announced. I have the interface locally, but all of the media, importantly, all of the playback is being handled by the remote machine. So if you have a remote machine with super fast hard drives, really nice graphics card, really good CPU, plenty of memory, it will feel like I'm playing back on that machine. So I can do special effects, I can do multiple layers of video, even if my local machine's not that powerful. Now, Adobe have not yet released the official specs, but I've seen this working on some pretty ropey machines. It just needs to be powerful enough to do initial still frame special effects setup and manage the user interface. Now, if you think about it, from my point of view, if you're a post facility, if you're students, if you're working in education, this is a no-brainer, because you can lock your really, really powerful, expensive rockstar machines in a vault protected by ninjas that no one gets to see, and other people can access that content remotely on a network. And the bandwidth, again, the bandwidth required isn't that high. So no relinking, it's already on there, you don't transfer any files. All you need is to get your media into that machine. And there is an upload option as well, but of course, if you're working with gigabytes of data, you're going to want to do it locally. And it works with the production premium applications. And this is an important detail from an end user point of view. Support for these applications is built into the Creative Cloud apps. So if you've got the new CC versions of things like Premiere Pro, After Effects, and Prelude, which has support for the Anywhere technology right now, then it just will work if you've got an Anywhere server. There's a little login feature inside the application. Okay, so again, I want to rush through so I can show you, but the gist of it is, what makes this technology special is the stuff in that red box. We've got support for asset management systems, and there's a few that have been certified, ratified already. I'm sure Route 6 will be able to tell you about those. If you use Anywhere, you're going to use an integrator like Route 6. You're not just going to take this home with you. This is really intended for larger groups of editors. There's a certain price point threshold where it really becomes worthwhile, where you've got enough users to make it worthwhile accessing this content. I'm sure Route 6 will be able to walk you through that. But here we've got this so-called Mercury streaming engine, which in a very similar way to the technology we just saw, manages the data transfer so that you're just seeing the pixels that you need. But if you pause the image, what you're getting is a full resolution, full quality, pixel for pixel image that you can use for effects setup. And then here you've got all of your clients, and multiple clients per server. Okay, I'm not going to redo this slide, but this is the top new features in Premiere Pro CC. What's the rockstar stuff for me is the Lumetri Deep Color Engine. So you can now take LUTs, lookup tables from SpeedGrade, and pull them into Premiere Pro, so you can get really good looks and use them in real time in Premiere Pro. There's some really nice editing features. Link and locate makes it better to relink media. Closed captioning is improved, the playback's improved. And we've got mezzanine codecs native now, so we've got ProRes and DNX HD. And there's also a new loudness, because who's using the new loudness scale? Is anyone using the LUF scale? Who's doing broadcast? Okay, you do have to use the LUF scale. And now there's a beautiful loudness radar measurement tool inside of Premiere Pro and in Audition. So it just handles it for you. After Effects, you can now play Cinema 4D. You can play with it inside it because the playback engine's in there. The warp stabilizer's improved, new 3D camera tracking, Anywhere support, of course. And there's also a really lovely refine edge tool. So if you're doing rotoscoping, it's massively improved in After Effects CC. To be honest, I think the big thing with Creative Cloud is just that the user interface has been massively developed. I want to move on to show you this demo, but come downstairs, I'll try and show it to you. Okay, now what I really want to show you is this. I know I've only got about a minute to show you this. This is Premiere Pro CC. This is the new version, unreleased. It's due out on June 17th. It has a ton of really lovely features. The track headers have been finally developed. There's some new features for editing. But I can show you this in detail downstairs if you want to learn about how it works. What I really want to show you is this. I'm pressing play on the timeline, and it looks and feels like I'm pressing play on this machine. What's actually happening is a machine downstairs, another laptop, is playing back. It's got a faceless version of Premiere Pro running via the Mercury streaming engine, via Anywhere, and I'm accessing this media with JKNL dynamically on the timeline. And I can cut and edit and play back. And if you look in my effects, I've got here, for example, if I go for my three-way color corrector, just to make this, oops, that's not three, that's tree. If I put my three-way color corrector on one of these clips, now that machine downstairs is CUDA enabled, but I don't think it's the most powerful machine in the world. It's just a laptop. But here, I'm putting color correction on, and it's playing back live. And what's actually happening is that machine downstairs is applying a color correction effect with which whatever power it's got. And the Anywhere server is feeding this machine the stream. But this machine has Premiere Pro installed. I am using Premiere Pro. Everything's being done in the background so that I'm working with my media that's remote. So imagine you're working with an organization where there's, maybe you're working in news. Maybe you've got an organization where the media's ingest somewhere else in the building. Or if you've got a big enough connection, in theory, this in theory should work on a WAN as well. You've got people remotely working and your editor's back at base over in the UK, and you can play back remotely. Obviously, pings are pretty fast now. On my new lovely fiber connection, it's about 11 or 12 millisecond ping. It's not too bad, but you can actually edit remotely, and therefore you don't need to move your huge gigabytes of media files anywhere else. You can just put them in the machine locally, set up your Anywhere server, and access it remotely, which is a really powerful new option. It's a new paradigm for video editing. So that's Adobe Anywhere. This is Premiere Pro CC. If you want to come downstairs, I've got this machine set up. I've got After Effects on here. I've got Premiere Pro. I think I've got SpeedGrade installed. And yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for listening.